Hello, friends. Hope you're doing well. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Ryan Doris. I'm a natural pro bodybuilder. Some of you may know me already. Some of you may be hearing of me for the first time. And I think what makes me so unique is, like all bodybuilders, I have a bodybuilding philosophy, but I've always had a real gift to be able to say it in words pretty clearly. So I'm here to update my bodybuilding philosophy. I've been doing some pretty good bodybuilding again. It's been pretty good. It's been really good. And my thoughts about them are always getting updated and they're always changing. And I feel like I'm entering my phase of my life where I'm finally understanding the phrase trust the process, or it's you versus you, or it's one on one. Sort of one of those ideals of thinking that we've always heard in bodybuilding, but we've never been able to really capture. Like, I know for me, being competitive was always a thing that I loved about bodybuilding and still do, right? But being competitive was always my number one priority. It was sort of, how can I say this correctly? My energy was always that of who's coming in second place today. I just wanted to destroy competition. That's what I lived for. That woke me up. And that's what I think any good athlete should live for, right? But I think the problem with that, as I'm becoming older, is that those sort of temporal forms, these sort of um, mental structures that I think many bodybuilding archetypes have, can crumble fairly easily. Mine was being competitive. It's not that I didn't win enough competitions. Not like I didn't achieve enough. I did. But I think eventually the fuel, the gas, the motivator of being competitive, of bashing in heads, eventually the tide just washes out, right? We're human beings. We're people who are constantly changing and undergoing change. And I feel for me that's washed out a bit. So I'm sort of left in the wake of that and I need to discover a new philosophy. So this new philosophy that I've discovered, right? It's not a new archetype. It's not a new general form. It's not some revenge now I'm using for a motivator to get myself up, or I was bullied and I'll show them, or it's not anything new. It's not I didn't go through a bad breakup, and it's not anything that you would hear as a usual motivator to get you into bodybuilding. I'm now bodybuilding, and when I say bodybuilding, I mean at the level of a professional natural bodybuilder that I've always have. I'm giving it that same effort for the sake of just doing it. My motivator for it has been doing it for the process of it, doing it for the love of it. I've never thought that I would get to this phase in my bodybuilding, but I'm here now and I've got a good grasp on what this process is, and I like to do my best to share and sort of explain what I've been going through. So, okay, before we get into it, let's take a look at some bodybuilding itself. So I want to show everybody kind of what I've been looking like. So physically, I haven't been my very best lately, dude. I've been in a great relationship. Life has been good. I'm an online coach full time. My money, life has been good. Just life's been good, man. And I can see how uh, when I was younger, I didn't see this so much, but now I'm 36, and I can see how, as life becomes more content, that dog in you, that light dims less and less. So as a result of all that, I kept lifting, I kept training all throughout that. I never stopped, and this is kind of what I'm looking like right now. Let me pull this up myself and pop this on the screen for you. So I'm not looking bad, right? Like you wouldn't say that this guy looks bad. I look full. Uh, I have all my muscle, if not all my muscle. I'm training. I'm very healthy, but I'm heavier than I've ever been. I've never been this heavy before. Uh, I would say there's a lot of weak body parts on me, rear delts in some areas, that behind my knee on the hamstring. Some parts on me that I wouldn't necessarily call professional bodybuilding, and I've garnered up a real serious interest to get these back. I've just like a child again. When I was 19, I just really wanted to bodybuild for the first time. That was it. Uh, and I'm getting sort of full circle back to that. So it's been kind of beautiful. So, okay, physique down enough. Let's get into what this new philosophy is. So, to trust the process. What does it mean to trust the process? What does it mean to believe in the process? What does it mean to walk the process? I think the process for me is something that's always been there, It's sort of a bedrock of every great bodybuilder's foundation. And it's always this layer that I feel is sort of invisible only to the more loud, egoic motivator that we are at least conscious of. Going back to the previous parts of the video, I mentioned me. I was a very competitive competitor, which is a good thing, right? Ever since I ran track in high school and college, all through my athletic career, no one ever gave me negative reinforcement for being competitive. I just didn't know that one day I wouldn't be there to rely on it for no other reason than, I don't know, I just feel like I'm starting to like people more. I just feel like I'm changing as a person. I didn't know that the tide would wash out. So what am I left with, right? So as this tide is washed out, I'm kind of left in the wake of that the post tsunami aftermath. I feel like I'm just left with doing it for the sake of doing it, this process. And I feel if you can get to this point, or if you've ever felt like you've been at this point, like you're sort of identityless, you really don't want to have any labels, you just want to do the damn thing. This is the process, okay? The process, I think, is this. You know what to do. We all know what to do, right? The eat healthies, the lower calories, the increase the protein, the lift frequency 2 times a week if you want more, the training volume. Everyone knows what to do. You're not watching this or listening to this. You don't come to this channel because you're looking for X's and O's. Everyone knows the X's and O's. The bigger problem that I find is the lack of adherence to apply those X's and O's to our life. We've heard of the bodybuilding lifestyle in the life, and it's difficult. It's very elusive. It's hard. Even me, a professional, I've had it fall from my memory. There was, in the past 5 years, I would do it every day, but I wouldn't think about it as fervently, right? It starts to fade a little bit in your active daily attention. And I think this method, the process, calls for all of your attention and all of your belief in it as the most important thing in your life. I wouldn't go so far as to call the process a religion, but it's the religion of great bodybuilding. If you ever want to be a great bodybuilder, whatever way you think it goes, it's wrong. The only way it goes is the process, right? If you have to eat X amount of protein, that is the process to do it. If you have to sleep X amount of hours, that is the process to do it. If you have to lift X amount of times a week, there's no debate. The science is in. The data is out. This is the process. This is how we do things. The science can tell us these patterned, controlled, predictable, anticipatory things. Any knowledge of the world or earth or any of these sciences, physiology, math, anything, any knowable tool that we have and can apply to be a great bodybuilder, that is the process. And that is overwhelming. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. What part to stick to? It's a lot to swim through. But the journey of it is swimming through it. The process of it itself is the swimming through that. So, to swim through that, to be able to remain a student of the sciences, to be okay with the process that's constantly changing. When I first got into this thing, when I was a kid, at 24, what year was this? Year 2011, maybe. I broke out on the scene as this bodybuilder. You're gonna laugh. As this great natural bodybuilder who did it using macros. Macros were just brand new in my era. Macros. It was like this new science had come out, and I remember I had this great sponsorship, Saban, back in the day. For those of you who might remember. And they were great. They were the best. They were the best and only sponsor I've ever had. I loved working with that company. They had a Arnold trip this one time, I remember, and it was bringing some of the new guys in, and then some of like the classic world's best natural bodybuilders, right? And I remember there was a rift in the group versus people who were down with Fit Your Macros and people who weren't down. And these were the beefs, right? These were the beefs I was dealing with. This is, right, a new process is entering bodybuilding, and we have to be able to accept these. It's hard. It's very difficult, right? So It's a living practice, these sciences. It's a living thing, right? The process is very, it's very difficult. Now, you can't just read a book and read these books and know these facts and have them be applied to you and have them be adhered to your practice. If that were the case, anybody could just read an article and they would just do it the next day. But there's a strange phenomenon, there's a strange step missing here, a link missing here, right? The world of factual knowledge, everything that the process actually is and can be written in a book and can be read and could be known. That world of knowledge of the process is not the actual process. The actual process is adhering to all of that, is to sticking to this what the science says, to sticking what the anatomy says, right? How is the best way to do a bicep curl, right? We know we're not hyperextending the arm. We know this stuff because of thousands of years of proven sciences. We have built a massive foundation of sciences to build up to what this foundation, to build up to what the process of maximizing muscle or fat loss or weight loss is. But there's an issue here. You can't just read this stuff. You're not going to read this stuff and just be the bodybuilding champ. You're not going to read this stuff and put on some size on your arm. It doesn't work like that. The process, what we should be concerned about as people, is how to apply ourselves to that process. And this is where I think it gets very interesting. This is where I think, as they say, it separates the men from the boys. The process is twofold. Not only is it all those flow charts of how to eat, meal timing, what to eat, the information of it, but it's not only having that factual information in knowing that information to be a fact, but it's also pairing that with a powerful spiritual tool, which I think is the basis of all the process. Trusting the process, believing in the process. See, you can have a fact and know something for a fact, but if we don't have any sort of belief in it, right? If we don't have any trust in it, then none of us are ever going to do it. And the reason why we all know this information, but we still haven't manifested our physical best, our best that we know knowledge-wise. Imagine how phenomenal of a bodybuilder you would be if you could do all that you know about bodybuilding. Oh man, I'd be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd be great. But the process is us doing it, us getting to do that, right? So how do we get to do it? I say this. The number one thing that can help a bodybuilder get themselves to adhere to this process, to trust the process, to live the process, is to believe in the process. Okay. I'm asking you to believe very deeply here, right? If I gave you $100 bill and you saw it was authentic and you saw it was, you looked and you checked in, right? Would you believe in that $100 bill? Would you believe in the power of the $100 bill? Would you believe that you can spend it? Would you believe in it? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Deep down in your heart, you would believe in this 100%. But the process, what is this dissonance that I think, I find myself having? All of us have it. Knowing a thing, but not doing the thing. Right? And I think the issue in here is a lack of process orientation. Now, I've said the word process a million times today, but I'm saying this for a reason. The process, trusting the process, is as simple as this. If you're driving a car and you see a stop sign, you stop. You adhere. You submit yourself. You give yourself to that rule. Many of us still have not given ourselves to the process of this, right? It's going to be a pain. It's going to be, you're going to be at times the only person around you who wants to go to the gym. It's going to be at many times the only person around you who's even thinking about fitness, right? There are so many times to be an adherent of this process that the only strength that you have around certain situations or around with people is your dead belief in this, right? Sometimes you'll be at a party. Have you ever been out and been at a party? Let me paint the picture here. It's a big party, right? 20 friends at a table, people you haven't seen in forever. A night's just perfect. You're feeling good. Then just, dude, just hot fajitas coming out and drinks and birthday cake and just. Do you still, at this very moment of heightened fun and excitement, do you still believe that if you ate the meal that you had packed, that if you just ate the tuna that you already have packed, do you still believe that that's better off for you? Do you still believe that that is the better choice for you? This is what I've been wrestling with more than anything at this stage of my current bodybuilding, trying to really get myself back in. To what degree is my belief, right? Jesus would say, it will be done to you according to your belief, right? To the miracle of this process, the miracle of muscle building. Dude, we know so much science on this stuff. It's unbelievable how much we know about this stuff. We like know it all, I'd say. Enough to make an Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? We know a great deal, enough to make some phenomenal physiques. But the problem is adherence. It's a very hard one to adhere to. And I think the issue is that though we know it for a fact, we believe little. So how do we get our belief up? Okay, here's the good news that I'm here to preach to you. Okay. The belief portion of the process, right? You can equate it to the highest thing in your body. This is what Aristotle would call a virtue, right? That no matter what, you live your life by this way. This is what, to be successful at the process of eating the food, lifting the weights, sleeping on time, doing the cardio, this is what this calls for. This is why no one does it. It's because we have no belief in it, right? We believe otherwise. We believe that, that's kind of hard. That's kind of annoying. You know, if you just did it, if you just actually believed it and did it, the results would be miraculous, right? You can't believe anything else above the execution of checking the boxes, hitting them all, believing that all the details matter. Believe that you have to lay this brick as perfectly as possible. You have to let it overtake your life. But I think the good news is this. What else are you going to do? Bodybuilding is like a religion. The process is like a religion. What else are you? Are you a skateboarder? Well, then go skateboard, right? Let that be your expression of your spirit. If you're a bodybuilder, then to what else? Why this limbo? Then to what else do I owe myself? That's been for me the biggest part that I've been trying to really pull up out of myself in this phase. How do I eat differently than the rest of the world and still be able to feel great? How do I think differently than the rest of the world? How do I live differently? How do I judge differently? How do I make decisions? This is a bodybuilder I'm describing, right? This isn't an egoic type of separation thing I'm attempting to do here. The process calls for us to eat, live, think in a higher power of belief that we just don't have access to. And that higher power of belief is very simple. It is the process. Right? I can't see it all in front of me at one time. I can't hold it all in front of me at one time. But if I can just look at this little part right here, right now, which might just be eat the tuna, it makes a huge, huge, substantial difference. Okay, so I gotta lay down a bit of ethos here, right? I've just been talking about this stuff and kind of spiritually. I have to tell you where I first heard of this process thing from. I first heard of the process from Nick Saban. Nick Saban is a 7-time national NCAA men's football. There's no women's football. Wow, men's football champion. 7 times. He's won 6 at the University of Alabama. Alabama Roll Tide Nick Saban. He's recently retired. I first heard of the process from him. He was the first person who I heard say his team runs off of what they call the process. Right? It's a step-by-step, brick-by-brick approach that he developed when he was at Michigan State University, I think, or maybe University of Michigan. I don't know his coaching history that well, but I know he came up with this professor who worked there, who's also a psychiatrist, Dr. Lionel Rosen. They came up with this basically this model using cognitive behavioral treatment. CBT is basically a therapy, behavioral therapy you can add to now I'm speaking out of my qualification here, to someone's treatment if they're in that world of psychological or psychiatry type treatment, right? They use CBT in places like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? People who have issues with substance abuse and need to change their behavior, right? They change their behavior patterns by doing this step by step. That's why they have these step programs with alcoholics, not for just alcoholics, but for people who lived in houses with alcohol, that alcoholism has affected them, right? And so these are step by step, brick by brick, behavioral changing things. They do this in football. They do this in football and they win. They've won. Listen to me here. They've won more, not by being the most competitive, like I previously thought you had to be, right? Not by trying to be the most vengeful, not by none of those things, completely none of those things. Simply by passively trusting and believing in the shit they already told us to do, we can be better. Mind blowing. This process thing isn't me just making this up. This Nick Saban guy has applied this. So, okay, I have to read you something here. This is a Wikipedia definition. It's not the best definition. So it's on process thinking. So if we're a bodybuilder and you want to be your absolute best, right? We have to trust the process, believe in the process, have faith in the process. The science is that what they tell us, right? The process, you know what to do, but how to think now, how to spiritually believe. This is the part that we need to step into. Process thinking. Wikipedia definition says, process thinking, also known as the process, is a philosophy that emphasizes preparation and hard work over consideration of outcomes or results, and is particularly popular in professional sports. Practitioners of process thinking focus on the present, right now, instead of past events or future outcomes. And believe that all actions one takes in life, regardless of how trivial they may seem, affect the desired outcome. This philosophy was popularized by American football coach Nick Saban. They believe that everything they do, they believe that these kids under Nick Saban believe that when they go to that keg party, right, on college campus, they believe that how this day affects what they're doing right now, what they're doing in this moment. Nick Saban's kids believe that when they're on the field, they can't worry about previous bad plays. They can't be focused on the past. They can't be worrying about the future. I'm going to be a champion. They can't be worrying about any heavy identities or egoic based things. They have to believe in the present moment, in the here and now. Everyone knows that the bodybuilding method is an overwhelming method. It is good enough to focus on the task that you have in front of you right here and right now. I find myself at times, as I'm getting back into this, feel overwhelmed at times, right? Sometimes you want to tell yourself, well, this is just unreasonable. And I think what is particularly different about the bodybuilding method is that it is unreasonable. That is the ask. That's the basis of the ask. It's very unreasonable what people are asked of to be a lawyer or a judge. You know, it's very unreasonable, a lot of professions and a lot of pursuits. But the higher the difficulty, right? The higher the chastising you have to take in the method, the greater the gift I think you'll be able to express. So I think the express one-way ticket train to get to what you desire in your spirit as fast as possible, to win, like Nick Saban did, to actually win more, is the process, right? Is being process thinking. It's not just knowing something for a truth objectively, taking it for a fact, but to live it and walk it so deep down in your subconscious. It's like those musicians who can't read music, right? Or pilots who don't have aero engineering degrees. You can sort of get on something's wave and ride its wave just by knowing its characteristics. And we know the characteristics of the process. All we've got to do is stay of faith and believe in it. So to trust the process, all we have to do is focus all of our conscious energy, all of our conscious presence attention in what we should be doing. Now, this isn't say to create tunnel vision. You create tunnel vision, or you drive a car and you look too close down on the road and you don't look further enough, you end up crashing, right? This process thinking, all it's simply asking you is, for whatever the method calls for. If the method calls for you to be resting right now, then rest. If the method calls for you to be PRing, then PR right now, right here, right now. What it's not asking you to do is live in the past or live in the future. It's to be completely present. In this presence for me, this has been a sort of a new spiritual tool that, growing up Christian, they don't really talk about. It's more of an Eastern philosophy type thing. They don't really talk about this presence. But I think how do I say it? To believe and to be present are sort of one in the same as far as it goes for bodybuilding, right? There's always some 24-hour type of work to be doing. You can always be getting better with bodybuilding. Always, there's always something to be doing. If you're not bodybuilding, then you're probably busy trying to do something with just life, right? Because bodybuilding demands so much. I think I train currently anywhere from 15 hours on the low end to 20, probably more 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week I'm probably training and I'm probably at the gym. And it takes extraordinary dedication not only in the gym, but outside the gym as well. The amount of time we prep food and we're preparing food, the amount of times we're trying to nail schedules and still live a life with this in the life, right? To me, it seems like having a child sometimes, having bodybuilding. And there's a complete, overwhelming, all-in type of commitment to raising a child, no different than the process calls for bodybuilding. I should say great bodybuilding. You can run this partially, and you can believe in it sometime and do it sometime, and you will still get great results, I think. But if you ever want those phenomenal results that you see in yourself, it'll be done to you according to your belief, as it says. So, okay, I think that's about all I got for this video. The next video, I want to continue on this and talk about some other elements of the process. Some of those being faith, some of those being pain, and how do I say it? Big tools, spiritual tools that we need to get into this if we want to do our best bodybuilding. So right now, y'all, I'm doing my best to get back into this method. I feel great. I personally don't know where I really want to go with it right now. I feel like my soul is calling to run a bit of a cut, right? To drop a bit and to lose a bit of weight, but we'll see how it goes. I want to see what I'm looking like. I'm getting that itch. I realize it's been over 5 years since I've seen sort of what I look like under there. So I'll update you next video on my physique and how my training is going, as well as one of the big philosophies that I've been updating and that I'm thinking about as well. So if anything today, trust the process. I wish I could say that and I had more power, but it's simply knowing what you know and believing it. And I think the work for that has to come from deep down. If you've heard it, you've got to think about it all the time. All the time. All the time. You've got to live it. It's got to be like our religion, so to speak, with this. Thank you.